Fireside Tales. Hello, I'm Merlin, Mililli. Welcome to my fireside, where I tell tales, weird tales, and I drink coffee. I drink coffee from my skull cup. Used to be a mug. My children broke one of my mugs and then the other one cracked and stopped holding liquid. I had two skull mugs. Did I say welcome to my fireside? I think I did. But welcome back to season 4. Do you believe it? Season 4 of Fireside Tales. This season will take us to ancient Egypt. So we'll be in ancient Egypt for the whole season. It's weird drinking coffee from a straw, but it's what we have. So every week for the season, I'll be telling you guys about my book in the Akashic Records. And in my book, is record of every life I've lived. The Akashic Records is an ancient library that can be reached only through meditation, or if you're already a spirit. It's on the spirit realm, or in the spirit realm, where I tend to spend a lot of time. I used to spend a lot more time in the spirit realm, and I did a lot of research on me and who I've been and where I've been. And so here at Fireside Tales, I talk to you every week about my book and the Akashic Records and the things that are in there and the people that I've been. This, my fourth-ish life, this season we're going to discuss my fourth life, which was in ancient Egypt. Every week I also tell you the story of the Grateful Dead. Did I say I drink coffee from my skull cup because I'm a deadhead? I am. The Grateful Dead is a story that a band got their name from. It's an ancient Buddhist story, and it's about reincarnation. And every week here at Fireside Tales, we discuss reincarnation. It's our main topic. And The story of the Grateful Dead is a story about reincarnation. So every week I tell the story of the Grateful Dead in the way that I heard it from a deadhead by a fire, as it should be told. It's written in the Tibetan Book of the Dead, and it's written in Sanskrit, so a lot of people don't know the actual story, or they've heard a weird version. I heard this version from the guy who was a kid then, Grateful Fred, who got me listening to the Grateful Dead in this lifetime when I was like 12. And his parents were both professors, and they had lived abroad. I'm not sure exactly where they lived, but for some reason, Fred learned Sanskrit when he was growing up from his parents, who were professors. So he had read the story. So he told me the story by a fire. One dark, stormy night by the Mill River. It wasn't that stormy. That was just for effect. Anyhow, I'm going to go ahead and tell you guys the story of the Grateful Dead. Once, long, long ago, there was a traveler. It was so long ago that she traveled by foot. One day, while she was traveling along, she happened upon a little village. She got a little closer. She saw a crowd in the village. So she went to go see what the crowd was gathering about. As she got closer still, she heard them arguing, which made her curious. She got closer still and saw that they were all arguing over a dead body that was lying there, literally at their feet. The traveler was taken aback by this arguing, because they were arguing over who was going to pay the dead man's debts and who was going to pay for a proper burial and who was going to bury him. He owed some money, so the traveler thought that was disgusting and disrespectful to the dead man. So the traveler stopped all their arguing and said, I will pay the dead man's debts. And so she paid the dead man's debts, and she paid for a proper burial, and she prayed over the dead man's grave. And she traveled on. And then one day, decades later, the traveler, from the beginning of the story, happened upon a life or death situation where out of nowhere, someone just came and swooped her up and saved her life. She was like taken aback and confused, and she said, "Thank you." And she was grateful, obviously grateful. And she asked the person, "Who are you? Where did you come from? Why did you save my life?" And the person who saved her life simply said, "I am the Grateful Dead." So that was the dead body, the dead man laying there that she paid the debts of. And he was reborn in a little baby body, and decades later was an adult, remembered somehow that he owed a debt to that traveler, and he paid it back by saving her life because he was grateful. That is the story of the Grateful Dead. Some people think that the person, the reincarnated person, the Grateful Dead, is a corpse or a zombie. Corpses, zombies, they don't tend to save lives, do they? I mean, even in stories, I don't know of corpses or zombies that save lives. It's not a corpse, it's not a zombie. It's a reincarnated person that happens to remember their last life. Or death, rather. Excuse me. So, like I said, my book in the Akashic Records holds record of every life I lived. And I view my book meditatively. So I don't really read it per se. I sort of put my hands, my meditative hands, on it, on a section, on a page, and I have like a memory of what happened then in my book. And my book has this weird watermark. Now, my book is really big and old and dusty. And half of it is light and dry and sandy. And that half holds record of long lives, like unusually strange long lives, like thousands of years long lives. And then there's a watermark. And then after the watermark, everything is wet and muddy and dark. And my lives, the record of those lives in the wet and dark and muddy part, are much shorter. Like, much shorter. Like, they don't really even get to 50. Like, much shorter. So, linking each life, though, in my book, even in the light part and the dark part, linking the two are, and all of my lives are these little threads. And I think the watermark marks the Great Flood. So one of my threads is meditation. I've meditated in every one of my lives, which may be why this has just been easier for me than I've seen others experience. I know some people have a hard time just meditating. Some people have a hard time transcendental meditating, which is what this is. Some people hold the secrets to transcendental meditation for a price, a high price. I don't, and on my channel I have a few different meditative videos that can get you to where you need to go to do transcendental meditation. It's a process, though. You want to meet your spirit guides and take them with you anywhere you go, so they can help you get back to your body, for one thing, and so they can help you, guide you so you don't enter into a dangerous situation without your body. Basically, you're wandering around without your body. So, always before I meditate, even in my past lives, I ground and I smudge. Smudging is done with a smudge stick. It's dried sage in a bundle. Light the sage. I have a cup of water here. I'll discuss fire safety in just a moment, but let's smudge and ground first. I'll show you guys what that's all about. So you're smudging your aura of negativity. Sage smoke clears away negative energy. Okay, so that's smudging. Grounding is a breathing exercise where you blow out all the negative and breathe in positive eventually. So you want to blow out all the negative. Breathe in positive, thinking uber positive thought. And breathe out positive energy. So that's grounding. So smudging, grounding, and meditation are all threads of mine. Also fire. And fire safety is always important. Always been important. But I live in California, and so it's more important nowadays here. But realistically, everywhere, when it's summertime especially. So, fire safety. I have a kettle of water on top of the stove. I also have a sprayer around the corner. You always want to make sure you have water that can put your fire out. Also, a shovel is a good idea, especially for outdoor fires. For outdoor fires, you want to make sure that you dig a pit and you line it with stones and that there's nothing growing out of that. And then you also want to make sure that you dig your fire pit where there's no overhanging branches so that the trees can't catch fire. You want a nice open space fire pit lined with stones, and then you want to have a bucket of water or a hose that's nearby that has running water in it, and a shovel for sure for an outside fire, because you can put dirt on an outside fire and get it out pretty quickly, whereas you might not want to waste all your water if you can get it out with dirt. So please be careful with your fires, but fires are a huge part of my book. There's so many stories told around fires, and the story of the Grateful Dead, and it's a warming place, a gathering place, a cooking place. They used to be incredibly important for survival. So, also, threads of mine are nature worship, stars, telepathy. In every life so far, I have been a psychic medium, which is why I spend so much time in the spirit realm. I can communicate with spirits. I've always been able to communicate with spirits when I was a little kid, now as an adult, in my past lives. And the spirits have a theory on reincarnation. Though, after all this time, I lean towards it not being really a theory anymore, but it's more of a truth, in that the spirits believe that reincarnation happens after someone's been murdered. If you get murdered, you get to come back and try again. But you don't come back as a corpse or a zombie. You don't need your body. Your old body dies and decays, and you come back in a little tiny baby body, and you grow up and have a whole nother life. So, like I said, this season 4 of Fireside Tales, takes us to ancient Egypt. About 1505 BC. A time when women typically weren't pharaoh. But I was, eventually, in this, my fourth-ish life, in my book, in the Akashic Records. I was a woman, born female, a princess, who grew up in the palace because my father had been pharaoh. Or my father was pharaoh. I was, according to my book, on the light sandy dry side. Hatshepsut. Of course, Hatshepsut wasn't born Pharaoh. Most people say that Pharaoh is like the modern day equivalent of king. But I think it's really more like the equivalent of emperor. Because pharaohs, or pharaoh, um, they had kings beneath them who answered to them. And they had priests beneath them who answered to them, and priest kings beneath them who answered to them. But the priest kings and the priests and the kings all kept the pharaoh in check as well. And he counted on them, or she, as their closest advisors. The priest kings would also guide a pharaoh and teach them all the traditions and all the things that they needed to know based on all the ancient traditions. And this is ancient Egypt, so these are traditions that were ancient to the ancient Egyptians. Very, very, very old traditions. So as a child, I remember is a loose term. I had what I told you about as a memory from my book of the palace, but lions everywhere, full grown lions all over the place in the palace. And I would scritch their ears and pat them on the head and rub their bellies. I mean, I named some of them. My father named some of them when he was a child. I loved those lions. They were wonderful. They protected the palace and us. There were a lot of people living in the palace. And those lions protected us. They protected us all until one night, while we slept, someone came in and poisoned the lions and ambushed our palace. We woke up to all our friends, our lion friends that we scritched and patted, fed, and loved, who protected us. We woke up to all of them dead on the ground. on the palace floor, which was stone. But what was ransacked was the pyramids, mainly, but also the palace. But the thieves came in the night, so they the lions also guarded the Sphinx and the pyramids, and all of the lions were dead. We probably had 75, 80 lions everywhere, like all over. And they were all dead in the morning. And the pyramids, like I said, one of my threads are stars. The pyramids are aligned with Orion, the Great Pyramids at Giza. That's on purpose, but they are not tombs. They've never been tombs. They never were tombs. They were, for lack of a better word, basically an electric company. Um, the Ark of the Covenant is said in the Bible to be made of gold. Gold conducts electricity very well. And the ancient Egyptians figured out some form of electricity. I'm not sure how exactly they used it. That worked with sunlight and water and gold. And sometimes they used a combination of silver and gold, which is called electra. But it definitely generated something. And you see, I don't know if you've seen it in all the ancient Egyptian art, but there's this one carving that comes up all the time, and no one seems to understand what it is. But it looks like a light bulb. And it looks like there's an eel making the light bulb light up. Eels are electric. That's why they call them electric eels. My dad had this eel skin wallet, and it made all of his credit cards lose their magnetic strip. Don't buy an eel skin wallet. But a live eel, apparently, according to ancient Egypt and their carvings, can make a light bulb light, which is how I think they made all those passages inside the pyramids and the tombs and stuff light up without getting soot on the walls, because they had light bulbs and electricity. They had batteries. Archaeologists have uncovered ancient batteries that would have ran on juice, basically. which is crazy, right? But it still today the design works, and it's a battery. I really think they used mostly electricity for light, but I also think they used electricity to move the stones a bit, all those big stones. But one thing I know for sure, now I had this experience with the priest kings who came to me when I was moving some stones outside here at Mililli Studios. And I heard from the priest kings that if I hummed a little tune while, it doesn't matter what tune, if I hummed a little tune while moving the stones, that it would be easier. So I did, and it was a lot easier. Like, not even just a little bit easier, it was a whole lot easier. Like, there were stones I couldn't lift unless I hummed. It was strange, but the sound, I think, was a huge thing for the ancient Egyptians. And I also believe that their language was sung. I believe the roots of all language are song. I think we all sang before we spoke. It's just my opinion. So we'll leave the story of Hatshepsut there with the dead lions and ransacked palace and pyramids. So dun dun dun! Until next week, where we pick back up in ancient Egypt. And so the other thing I do every week is I sing Deja Vu. It's the only song I know, besides the one I wrote for this show, that's about reincarnation. And I wrote a song for the show, like I said, about reincarnation. I think it's called Reincarnation. I think I sang it once, and then David Crosby died. So now I just sing David Crosby's Deja Vu every week in his honor. And because really, for many, many years, it was the only song about reincarnation. So here we go. know just what to do. Don't you? If I had ever been here before and another time around the wheel, I would probably know just how to deal with all of you. And I feel like I've been here before. Like I've been here before, and you know it makes me wonder what's going on under the ground. Do you know? Don't you wonder? What's going on down under you? La da da, la da da, la da da da. La da 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 da. We have all been here before. 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 It's warm by the fire today. Warming up here in Shasta. Don't really need a fire much longer, but we still need the fire. It's just really warm sitting by it playing guitar. So that's about it for us today. Um, Join us next week where we go back to ancient Egypt and talk more about the pyramids and pharaohs and Hatshepsut. Thanks for watching. Have a weird and wonderful weekend.